Today I'm going to be showing how you can create new locations/scenarios within a system in Eco Risk Projector. So if I am to create a new system, so through the new and in system, we can obviously give it a name, give it a description, and we can then choose to create a new scenario. Now a scenario is a what-do-you scenario, and it's effectively a version of the provided data at the locations that you then specify. So commonly you might have a pre-development scenario and maybe a full use or a full entitlement scenario, or any other number of scenarios depending on your situation. In this case, I'll call this one pre-development. Now, when you specify that a scenario is the default, what that means is that when we do, first of all, it'll usually be what is selected as the baseline. For example, like whenever there's something where we need to select just one scenario as the starting value, then it will be the default. But more importantly, it's used for computational purposes. Any data file that exists on the default but not on the scenario being run, we will use the default data file to fill that space, which is important for certain files which you might only have one version of and you just want to apply it everywhere. You want to upload it on the default and then you don't have to re-upload it, and it will just be automatically used by the tool. So now that we've made a scenario, we can make a location. Location is somewhere that you have data, so that'll often be a gauge. For example, we might just go ahead and call this one node 1. So you can see here we've now got node 1 at pre-development, and we can continue to add new locations or add new scenarios. If I was then to add a new location, maybe this one shall be node 2. We've now got node 1 and node 2, and I could then, so this effectively is two different places where you might want to upload data. And then I could then create a new scenario. For example, I might call it full entitlement. So again, you can give a description. We won't select it as the default because we've already said pre-development is. However, you could obviously change them back and forth. And now when I create this, you can see this duplicates the two locations. So pre-development, where we've defined these locations, and then full entitlement has the same locations. So the locations you define apply at every single scenario, and the data you upload is basically uploaded at a combination of a scenario and a location, and it can be we use the default to inform the non-default scenarios if the data hasn't been re-uploaded. So I might then here decide that I want to upload, just for example, let's do this flow 10-year data. So now I've got that here for node 1 within pre-development. I might then have a different flow. For example, this is flow single year file, add node 1 in full entitlement. So now when the computation runs for node 1 in pre-development, we're going to use this. When it runs for node 1 in full entitlement, we're going to use this. However, if I didn't add this, when I run node 1 in pre-development and node 1 in full entitlement, we're both going to use this file because it's been provided on the default. Now, if you wanted to change, you could say, actually, this is the default, and if I was to run this, this would not be able to run the node 1 full entitlement, or node 2, of course, because there's no data. It would be able to run with flow on node 1 pre-development, and again, nothing on node 2 pre-development. Now, if I want to edit these locations, you can right-click, edit and delete. So let's say I wanted to change node, say this was node 3, can edit it, or perhaps I want to delete it, I can delete it. And same thing with scenario, edit and delete them. For example, change the name or delete. So here I'm back at pre-development and just node 1. And I would say that provides an overview of how locations and scenarios are used and how they interact in Eco Risk Projector. So yeah, overall, you basically have a set of locations, which are places that you have data for. And then you have scenarios, which are data versions that you use. So you might just have one and you only want to run that one, and that's fine, but you can also have many and you can compare the results across them. So, compare pre-development with full entitlement in terms of the success of a model.